Hey guys, SGT here with the very long overdue Your Questions Answered by Bix Weir. Sorry for the delay, but we had an overwhelming response, more than 150 total comments I think, and Bix and I took a lot of time to go through them all and narrow them down to 6 categories. So hopefully your question is being represented here. If you find that it's not, if we missed anything at all, don't hesitate to leave us a comment below or email us and we can try to tackle your question again separately. There's a lot of questions. We're going to do this in parts. The 6 categories we narrowed it down to are number 1, predictions and timing. Number 2, silver and gold. 3, the crash and reset. 4, the good guys and bad guys. 5, Ron Paul. And 6, the future. Bix, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Sean.
So, Bix, before we get started with the questions, let's just hit briefly on what we're seeing with J.P. Morgan and what we're seeing with the euro meltdown. Sprott has just issued its own report, basically saying that Greece is essentially 21 billion euro away from a complete banking collapse because the Greeks are taking their money out of the banks. And J.P. Morgan is in complete meltdown phase. I mean, it just keeps getting worse and worse. First, we heard it was 2 billion, 3 billion, now 6, 7 billion. What's the truth with J.P. Morgan as it relates to their derivatives?
We're going to find out very soon, hopefully. We won't get the whole story, of course. It's all being hidden. But Jamie Dimon was supposed to testify in front of the Senate Bank Committee, I think it was this week or the week of June 6th or 7th. That's been pushed off a week since it was found out that they haven't been marking their derivatives the same in every part of the company. So they're calling different assets different values, and this all comes out of the London office, that Bruno Ixel guy, the whale. That obviously that's just a front man for what goes on at J.P. Morgan, on a daily basis. But this is huge. I mean, this is accounting fraud, and it's interesting that J.P. Morgan had to go back to their old methodology of valuing derivatives and other assets on their book just a couple months ago, and this was before they announced these losses. And is it in the $8 to $10 billion range? A lot of people saying 20 to 30 billion. Who knows these days? But Jamie Dimon's going to have a lot to answer to when he goes in front of Congress on the 13th, because they have a lot of ammunition now. J.P. Morgan, all the banksters want it to stay afloat, but obviously the Congress is starting to turn up the screws on them, and this is the time when they take them down, because they know that you take down J.P. Morgan and the entire fiat monetary system is done.
Okay, well, I think we've really set the stage here for these questions, Bix. People really submitted some excellent questions, some hard questions, and I think we've really grouped the most difficult ones together here. Are you ready?
I sure am.
All right, well, let's get started with the first category. The first question, predictions and timing, comes from Bill. Always a question for me is timing. I hear over and over again by you that it's coming, yet the timeline always passes. What do you got to say, Bix?
Well, that's the biggest controversy on the road to derivatives is how come it hasn't happened yet. And I try to qualify every time that I give a time frame that nobody really knows, but according to my research, here's what I'm thinking. And the reason I give any kind of timing is that that's the number one question asked by everybody. Yeah, we see it happening, but when's it gonna happen? And my take is it is happening right now. It's happening all around us. You can see the bankers getting arrested. Europe is falling apart. That's going to be the key, and the key is the derivative situation. It did start in March. I predicted that, back in last summer, that something's going to go on in March that's going to carry through the summer, and then by August we should see, the full fruition of all the problems. So, yeah, timing is it's difficult, and, I try to lay out all the reasons why I believe this time is the time it's going to happen, but you can't get them all right, and I haven't hit it exactly on the timing, although a lot of things are going on.
Yeah, the dominoes are beginning to fall. They're kind of doing it in slow motion, but I think behind the scenes there's a lot of panic going on. All right, Bix, you've set up a good one here from Rajan78, who really is beating you up. You ready?
I've seen him or her post on your website. He's always the one attacking me, which is fine. We get a lot of that. But go ahead.
Okay, here we go. The last 2 of your calls, Bix, I remember you were saying Sarah Palin would play a major role in Ron Paul's campaign and a monetary crash by the end of March, which we just touched on. Do you feel accountable? I think he means for being wrong.
Accountable, responsible. Do I feel? Yes, I do. But what I'm trying to do is get people positioned in the right place. I am responsible for people getting out of the market, getting into physical silver, getting it in your own possession, explain to them how this electronic and paper world can easily come crashing down, and it is crashing down. So, if your question is, do I feel accountable and responsible for that call, the overall road to ruin? Yeah, and I'm still very happy that I've done this research and explained it to people. But it's one of those things. Sarah Palin, you do know, he needs to know that she has not endorsed anybody yet. That call was so far out there. The Ron Paul call was so far out there back when I made it last year that no one believed it. Now you can see it happening. He's winning all these states. And Palin still has not endorsed anybody. There's only 2 guys left. She's talked bad about Romney ever since the beginning. Like I said, come August, when we have the convention, is when they pick the candidate. Now, if there's a banking crash between now and August, I believe you will see Ron Paul come to the forefront and Sarah Palin right behind him carrying his flag.
Yeah, that's interesting. And Ron Paul's already at the forefront. If you look at his support from the common folk, the people showing up at these rallies, could line up for a very interesting convention. This one comes from Bettina. How much longer must we wait for the arrests of the Cabal? Now, I don't know if you've ever predicted arrests of the Cabal. Have you specifically? I mean, I see that coming from Fulford and Wilcock, and my question is, why in the hell hasn't it happened? If you're going to arrest these guys, you know who they are, just go do it. But what's your take on this?
Well, I hear that as well from, those guys, Fulford and Wilcock, and, in the road to Ruta theory, it's a more organic crash and then taking out the bankers after the crash. So I think what the good guys want, they don't want to be the cause of the crash. They want the blame to be put squarely on the bankers' shoulders, not because the CFTC came in and put in new rules, and not because, they arrested these bankers, that's why the market's crashing. They want the market to crash because of the deceit and the fraud that has grown up and is being implemented on the people that will buy these banker elites. That's what they want the cause to be of the crash, and then after that you're going to see the arrests of those people responsible.
Okay, and real quickly, I'm going to just answer this one. She says, you said silver will find its true value by year end. I'm going to just say Eric Sprott was just on CNBC recently. He said $50 silver by the end of the year. Last thing Bettina wants to know, did you discover this Ruta theory alone, or did someone tip you off?
The amazing thing is that I did discover it alone. I'd been working with GATA and the Gold Antitrust Action Committee for years, and fighting the fight. And I dig into the Fed archives, and literally it was on the very day that the Road to Ruta and Wishes and Rainbows comic and the Banking Basics comic were posted on the Federal Reserve Boston website, and I remember that day vividly. It was January 1st, 2007, that they posted these articles, and they posted them with huge red exclamation points after them. It was the most bizarre thing, and that's when it all started. I started digging into, what these things mean, what are they saying, and then, that led to domino after domino.
Okay, fascinating. Now, this one comes from my buddy and sometimes contributor, MRH, and he says, Jim Sinclair has said that June 28th, 2012 would mark a very significant financial snafu. What do you know about this? What do you think might happen in June of this year?
Well, June is when a lot of the European stuff goes down. A lot of the debts need to be rolled over or bailed out. You're seeing right now Greece is saying, we aren't going to do it. You're seeing Spain saying, the Spanish banks are in so much trouble. All of Europe is imploding. France is imploding. If it lasts until the end of June will be a better question. And I love Jim Sinclair. He's a smart guy. He's got his timing has been off as well. But it is happening, and you need to keep your eye out. You're not going to hear it on the news, the mainstream media, and you're not going to see it in the stock market until it's too late. So you're going to see, at one time you told me this thing will happen like a thief in the night. I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to be all of a sudden you see these banks freezing up, kind of like in 2008, except faster.
Okay, and this one comes from AJ. I think I know how you're going to answer this. Bix, what proof do you have that the banker job losses, these 600-plus resignations, are actual black hat folks as opposed to white hat folks?
Well, if you go down and look at them all, and I haven't looked at all 600, but I've picked and choose ones that seemed interesting. They're all connected with higher levels within the bank, and a lot of them are connected with European derivatives, kind of getting out before the mess hits. The key is the European derivative market.
And he also says in that question, are these it might just be normal downsizing of banks? Well, it's not normal downsizing. The way a bank downsizes, and we've seen it before, is they'll make one announcement, say, okay, we're laying off 1,000 people, and there's a couple high-level people in there, but not many. These are specific resignations or firings or whatever they are, specific to individuals within the upper banking ranks.
All right, we're moving on to the next category, silver and gold. This one comes from Brian. Brian's wondering about Cliff High's prediction when Cliff has said in the past, and so has James Turk and others, these $2 and $3, $5 up days in silver, followed by $10 up days, $20 up days. Do you see this reality happening anytime soon?
I do, and it has to do with the road to Ruta theory. It has to do with getting Ron Paul in office and returning to our Constitution. First of all, you got to remember that silver is not freely traded. Hasn't been freely traded since the early 1970s. So nobody knows the true price of silver in U.S. dollar terms, even if it's going to be measured in dollar terms in the future. But as soon as these computer programs are turned off or are reversed, out of the Fed or whatever happens, as soon as silver breaks away from the manipulation that J.P. Morgan friends cause every day, there will all of a sudden be only buyers and no more sellers. People will not sell their silver unless it's to manipulate the price or control the price. So as soon as that ends, you're going to see those kind of days. And it might be, it probably won't happen that long, because once silver is freely traded and gold is freely traded, you can kiss all fiat money goodbye. So, I think Cliff is talking about a little bout with hyperinflation before the whole thing crashes.
Okay, and this second part, I'm going to try to keep one question per person, or we'll never get done with this, but Brian's second part of his question is one that's so tough to answer. How many ounces of silver do you think is the right amount or a good amount to have on hand for the average family? I just did an interview with James Wesley Rawls in which we talked about the need for survival prep and food and all of those things. So if you were to say 1,000 ounces or 5,000 ounces or 50 ounces, everybody has to look at their individual situation, and you have to be prepared for other things. Silver is just not the only thing to have, and having said that, it's going to vary by your family income and and your net worth, right?
That's my exact answer to that.
Okay. All right, this one comes from Royce. Royce is wondering, given the fundamentals of silver probably being in short supply, it seems like that makes an argument that silver may be too rare to actually be considered a viable medium for trade. I understand what he's saying. It's not a bad conclusion to be drawing. I'm wondering if we'll go to a gold standard or a bimetallic standard as called for in the Constitution. Still possible?
Yeah, definitely. I've written a lot about how there's so much more gold than there is that is officially quoted as 160,000 tons. There's so much more gold than that. And there's as far as silver, there's a lot of silver as well. The shadier side of silver is kind of unknown, but there are clues as to the scarcity of silver. But you got to remember, we're mining silver at 700 million tons a year or so. Most of that's getting thrown away. Literally thrown away in the form of electronics, people throwing away their cell phones. Silver is used in so many electronic things coming out of China, and it just gets chucked. That is going to end. When silver's, $500, $600 an ounce, you're not going to throw away as much silver as we throw away today. So there will be a lot of silver to use as money. There'll be a lot of gold to use as money. It's not as complicated as people think.
Click here for Part 1B, the conclusion to Category 2, Silver and Gold. Thanks for watching.